Hey everybody, this is Devin Townsend and I'm here for Guitare Xtreme Magazine, and today I'd like to run you through two ideas that I utilize consistently in my music, and hopefully it will give you some ideas for your own. So basically I've been playing in open tunings for as long as I can remember. Every now and then I'll play in standard tuning, but typically my tuning is on a 6-string guitar from the low string up. C, G, C, G, C, E. And this guitar, which is this prototype 7-string Framus Stormbender, which is my model, has got an additional G underneath it. Now I'd love to give you just an idea. I would love to give you, he said, enunciating properly, a basic idea of how this tuning works and why it has ended up being so important to me. So you'll hear by my description that there's a lot of C's and a lot of G's. So that gives me octaves here, 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 here. And how you can articulate those octaves anywhere, just... So basically, if you're on the 2nd fret on the low string, skip a string, 2nd fret on the next one. Same here. 3rd fret, skip a string, 3rd fret. 2nd fret, skip a string, 2nd fret. Whatever. Then when you get to the high string, it's that shape. It's like a space of four frets between it, right? So other than that, if you go to the consecutive string, you get a 5th. So, and on the low string here, you have to go do that one. So when I'm writing, I tend to do a lot of orchestration and choral things and keyboard parts. But what's really important for me is that the house that I'm building on the bottom of all those sort of riffs is very solid. So as opposed to having the voices articulated with the guitar, like if you're doing a minor chord, or as opposed to doing that sort of an interval on the guitar, what I would typically do with the guitar and the bass is just play the root. And then I have the orchestras or the choirs do that, whatever, so. So the idea is to have the foundation of the music with the bass and the guitar just being as big and as solid as possible. Even with this guitar, I asked them when they were building it to make it heavier for me. A lot of people, when they pick up this guitar, they're like, wow, the guitar is too heavy. It's too heavy for me. And I was like, man, while I was building it, I kept asking Framus for it to be thicker, for it to be heavier, for it to be bigger. I just really like the idea of creating the foundation of my music with something really thick. So there's the basic idea with the tuning for rhythm stuff, you know, so you're... So it's a really basic kind of meaty power chord thing that happens in this tuning. Plus as a singer, because, you know, it's all open chords, it makes it easier for me to have my strap lower. I kind of like that. I like the feeling of like playing low. And what I tend to do is I get guitar players to play with me to play the more difficult parts. So I'll track it in the studio, and then I'll just get the other guitar players to learn it so I never have to do that. And all I have to do live is just be like crunch, 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 crunch. In fact, Guitare Xtreme asked me to demonstrate a bunch of riffs from the new Empath record. I don't know how to play them. I record them and then I forget about them, and then I offshore them to people who have more patience than I. Now let me give you an example of how this works in terms of lead playing. What's also great about this tuning, and I usually play 6 strings, so forgive me if I don't focus too much on the low string on this guitar. But what's great about this tuning is if you have a pattern, I've found that I can use it on every string. So like a major inversion, I can do it just on the same string. So it's the same thing up and down. Or if I wanted to do minor, if I wanted to do this one, I don't know what that one is. either way, you see that I'm doing the same thing on every string. And that allows me to sort of visualize these modes in a way that is just a real practical shape. And then when it comes to arpeggios, because these two strings are the same, these two strings are the same, these two strings are the same, you just basically, what you do on one string is the same as the one that you skip. Too many strings on this guitar. And then it's the same, it's the same pitch, just on different octaves. And then you fill in the inversions of what that arpeggio are going to be with the other string. So, and so these two strings are the same as well. So it's, sorry, or move it even. So basically what I'm doing is it's the same pattern on these three strings and the same pattern on these two strings. And I guess, because this is a new 7 string, this will extend to that as well. So I could go, so let's see, so it'd be like 7, 5, 9, 7, 5, 9, 7, 5, 9. Or I could do 7, 5, 8, 7, 5, 8, 7, 5, 8. And I guess you could even go. What I find when I'm writing is I don't know the notes that I'm playing. I don't know the pitches that I'm playing. I just experiment with shapes. Like a lot of how I write comes from a place of, I guess, synesthesia, where I see patterns as musical sounds, and certain strings are like remind me of certain colors, and you know, certain environments that I've been in remind me of certain chords. That's just kind of how I've always functioned. So when I'm writing with this, a lot of it's just exploring. I'm just looking at the neck and I'm like, I wonder what that shape would sound like. Yeah. So I would suggest, as the end of this first part of my lesson for you, is that with this tuning, it's just a very practical way of finding music on a guitar. It gets difficult though when you have to explain what you're doing to other musicians, because we recorded an orchestra recently and I couldn't remember what note it was. I heard the note and they were just like, well, I was like, well, that note's wrong. They're like, what note? I'm like, well, hang on a second. So I'm on 5th fret. That's the one that you're playing and it should be this one. And they're like, okay, well, what note is that? And I have no freaking idea. So I have to go G sharp, A. What's after A? B. So B flat, B, C sharp. So that's how I would explain that to the orchestra, which is not a very practical way of doing it. But that aside, I highly suggest open C tuning. Devin Townsend here for Guitare Xtreme. This is the second thing I'm going to show you. This is a tapping lick I've been using forever, and I use it all the time. It's super simple. It's super gratifying. I'm in open C tuning, C, G, C, G, C, E, low G on the 7th string. You can do it anywhere. Here's how it goes. Tap, say on the 12th, pull off to the open, 5, 7. And then back down. So, and I do it on the string below. And then I just kind of mix up the, and the reason why that's fun for me is because it's just this constant kind of barrage of color, so you can be like, something like that. I suggest you do that because it makes you look like you're a better guitar player than you are. All right, I hope you had a good time. My name's Devin, and I am here with my fancy guitar, and thanks for the support. Please listen to Empath, or don't. That's even better idea if you don't want to listen to it. Thanks for the support. Bye.